It's quiet. It's a little too quiet, don't you think? Not in our news cycle. Certainly not. But from Russia. See, it's interesting. Silence is never neutral in geopolitics, is it? When the loudest countries, that are typically the loudest in the world especially, suddenly stop talking, it doesn't mean tensions have disappeared, doesn't mean the war in Ukraine is over. It means something has shifted beneath the surface. Right now, our news cycles and news feeds are overflowing with noise, whether it's Donald Trump, Venezuela, oil, traveling to China to outrage Donald Trump, more outrage, counter-outrage, every headline fighting for attention, every story demanding an emotional reaction. And while all of that noise fills our screens, one of the most consequential global powers on Earth has gone almost completely silent. Russia. Now, that silence is not comforting, is it? Is it ever comforting when we don't hear a thing about Russia? Because I think that silence is strategic. Let's tap into the truth.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things and your Wednesday morning edition of Tap the Maple. Here's something we need to understand right away. Russia does not go quiet because it is unsure. Russia does not go quiet because it is retreating. Russia goes quiet when it believes time is working on its side. This is a country whose leadership has never confused attention with power. They understand that sometimes the most effective move is not to dominate the conversation, but instead to step back and let others tear themselves apart and eat each other alive. Now, when Russia wants unity in the West, it provokes loudly. We hear from them all the time. They get in the way all the time. They interfere in elections. When Russia wants division, it waits in the shadows. Right now, Western democracies are arguing nonstop. Political factions are hardened. Media narratives are emotional and reactive. Governments are stuck responding to headlines instead of shaping their strategy, in particular, their strategy around the world. Now, from Moscow's perspective, that isn't chaos at all for them. It's opportunity. Now, if you look back over modern history, one pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Russia is always loudest before the storm. Russia is always loud before escalation. Russia is loud during confrontation. But Russia is quiet before consolidation. Let me explain. The biggest geopolitical shifts don't usually happen during moments of maximum attention. They happen when fatigue sets in, when people are tired, when people stop watching closely, when yesterday's crisis becomes today's background noise. Wars don't always end. Sometimes they just disappear from the headlines and continue to rage on silently. Leverage doesn't always collapse. Sometimes it becomes normalized. Influence doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it quietly embeds itself instead. Russia has always been comfortable playing that long game. And the modern media environment is not designed for patience. It is built for immediacy. It is built to get your clicks. It's built for outrage. It's built for spectacle. Slow geopolitical maneuvering does not trend on your social feeds. It doesn't clip well. It doesn't spark instant reactions. So instead, attention gravitates toward whoever is the loudest, most polarizing, or most dramatic at any given moment. Right now, that gravitational pull is Donald Trump and every global storyline attached to the man. And here is the biggest danger of all of that. While cameras are locked onto the loudest actor on the stage, the quiet players are rearranging the environment itself. And that we should pay close attention to. Russia doesn't need to dominate the news cycle when the West is already consumed by internal noise. And despite the lack of headlines, nothing fundamental has actually stopped. Russia's military posture has not vanished. The war in Ukraine continues on, as we know from the epic spending from our government. It has shifted instead into endurance mode. Energy leverage has not disappeared. It has become more subtle and direct. Influence operations have not ended. They have just become quieter and harder to trace, and right now the cameras aren't trained on them. This isn't about dramatic invasions tomorrow. It's about shaping conditions over time for what Russia needs and for the win. Frozen conflicts that become permanent leverage, energy dependencies that quietly re-emerge through new routes and partners, political divisions that deepen without any obvious fingerprints. It's a masterstroke in planning. The most effective pressure doesn't feel aggressive. It feels inevitable. And that's what we're seeing and feeling right now with the silence of Russia. And some of you might be thinking, well, Chris, what the heck does that have to do with Canada? All Canada ever talks about is the other side of the Russia-Ukraine war in Ukraine. Well, Canada's especially exposed to this kind of quiet shift. Canada likes to see itself as principled and aligned. We sanction, we condemn, we follow international norms. All of that really does matter here. But while we focus heavily on reacting to U.S. political drama and chasing the loudest global flashpoints, we are quietly losing strategic ground in areas that will define our future, perhaps even our next election. Energy markets are being reshaped. Critical minerals are becoming geopolitical weapons. Trade corridors are shifting. Arctic access is no longer a theoretical storyline. It is real. Russia understands resources very, very well. Russia understands geography very, very well. Russia understands patience even better than all of that combined. Canada, meanwhile, is distracted. We are a distracted nation. Distracted by China, distracted by Trump, distracted by Pierre Poilievre. We fixate on Venezuela's oil because Trump is attached to it. He's talking about it. We chase the U.S. political cycle because it dominates attention. They are, after all, our neighbors. And in doing so, we avoid asking harder questions about where Canada fits in a world that is being quietly restructured all behind our backs, it seems. When Canada steps back strategically, others don't wait. They move, but they do it quietly, in the bushes, in the shadows. They don't wait. They move. Nowhere has this been clearer than the Arctic itself. The whole Greenland scenarios, everything. This is no longer a future conversation. It is present tense geopolitics, and it is happening. Shipping lanes, resource extraction, military positioning, trade leverage. All of it matters, and all of it's going through the Arctic. Russia has invested here, being the Arctic, methodically for years, with very little noise. China watches it very, very closely. Europe scrambles. The United States moves decisively and tries to take over a nation it has no right to take over. Canada talks about sovereignty but hesitates on infrastructure, long-term investment, and strategic clarity on its own. Silence from Russia in the Arctic is not absence from the Arctic. It is very much presence, but it's also confidence. Confidence that others are too distracted to challenge incremental gains. So when people say, Russia seems a little quiet right now, don't they? They're kind of missing the point. Russia isn't quiet because it's disengaged in what's going on in the world. It's quiet because it doesn't need to speak right now. It's letting the West eat itself. The West is exhausting itself emotionally. Political systems are reactive and fragmented. Public attention jumps from crisis to crisis. Trump did this, Trump did that. Trump looked out a window and mumbled something. Russia is waiting. They're waiting. And their waiting has always been one of its most effective tools that Russia uses. So when we think about all of this and we put all of this together, this is what Canadians need to sit with. The world doesn't usually change during moments of maximum chaos. It changes during moments of neglect. when attention drifts away from something that attention should be on, when fatigue replaces vigilance, when silence gets mistaken for safety. A quiet Russia is not a harmless Russia. It is a Russia that believes time, distraction, and division are working exactly as planned. And if Canada keeps this up, if Canada keeps chasing the news headline, if Canada keeps chasing the loudest story instead of watching the most consequential ones, we may wake up one day realizing the global balance of power has completely shifted and we weren't paying attention when it mattered the most. That's not to be alarmist. It's not alarmism. It's just history. This has happened before. Open a history book and you can find it everywhere. And that's why silence should make us lean in, not look away. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you get to the truth. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course join the conversation down below. Have your coffee, of course, as well if you haven't finished that. And we will see you at 2 o'clock for the afternoon episode of Bakes on Things Tap the Maple. For now, have yourselves a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you later today.